type 3.0% as the first number in the series. Select cell C13 and then type 3.125% as the second number in the series. Select the range C12 to C13 and drag the fill handle until you see 4.25%. Lift your finger or release the mouse button to generate the percentage series, in this case from 3.0 to 4.25%. Click the Home tab and click the Increase Decimal button in the number group to increase the number of decimal places shown to 3. Click cell D11 to deselect the selected cells, and on page EX202 to enter formulas in the data table. With cell D11 active, this is step 1, type equals F6, and then press the right arrow key to enter the first parameter of the function to be used in the data table. The parameters in our data table are these three here: monthly payment, total interest, and total cost. So we'll see how those vary given different interest rates. On page EX202, step 2, type equals F7 in cell E11 and then press the right arrow key. And step 3, type equals F8 in cell F11 and then click the Enter button to assign the formulas and apply the currency style format. On page EX203, to define a range as a data table, step 1, select the range C11 to F22 as the range in which to create the data table. Display the Data tab and then click the What If Analysis button in the Data tab in the Forecast group to display the What If Analysis menu. So that's here in the Data tab in the Forecast group, What If Analysis. And on step 2 on page EX203, click Data Table on the What If Analysis menu to display the Data Table dialog box. Click the Column Input Cell Data Table dialog box, and click the Column Input Cell in the Data Table dialog box, and then click cell F4 in the Mortgage Payment Calculator section of the spreadsheet to select the input cell for the data table. So, in other words, here we have this whole range selected. We're going to want to make it a data table, and for one-way data tables, we'll just use either the row input cell or the column input cell, but not both. So here we have a bunch of different rates, and they're in this column C. So our column input cell is going to be F4. In other words, the column C represents different variations on this input cell F4. So now with our column input cell selected, on page EX204, let's go ahead and step 3, click OK. And now let's apply the currency style with no currency symbol and the second format in the negative numbers list to the range D12 to F22. Welcome back. On page EX204, creating an amortization schedule. Continuing on to page EX205, to change column widths and enter titles. Step 1. Position the pointer on the right boundary of column heading G and then drag to the left until the screen tip shows width 0.92 to change the column width. And it's a little tricky to be precise here, so let's go ahead and right-click column G and then select column width. And let's enter 0.92. And just click OK. Step 2. Position the pointer on the right boundary of column heading H and then drag to the left until the screen tip shows width 6. Step 3. Drag through column headings I through L to select them. Position the pointer on the right boundary of column heading L, and then drag to the right until the screen tip shows width 16 to change the column widths. Select cell H3, this is step 4 on page EX205. Type amortization schedule and then press the Enter key to enter the section title. Step 5 on page EX205. Select cell C3, click the Format Painter button in the Home tab in the Clipboard group to activate the Format Painter, and then click cell H3 to copy the format of cell C3. So with C3 selected, just go to the Home tab and click the Format Painter button, and then select cell H3 to apply the same format. Step 6 on page EX205. Click the Merge and Center button in the Home tab in the Alignment group to split the selected cell, cell H3 in this case. Select the range H3 to L3 and then click the Merge and Center button in the Home tab in the Alignment group to merge and center the section title over the selected range. Step 7 on page EX205. Enter the following column headings in row 4, year in cell H4, beginning balance in cell I4, ending balance in cell J4, paid on principal in cell K4, and interest paid in cell L4. Select the range H4 to L4 and then click the Center button in the Home tab in the Alignment group to center the column headings. So with I4 to L4 selected, go ahead and we'll just click Center in the Alignment group. On page EX206, Step 8, select cell H5 to display the centered section title and column headings. To create a series of integers using the fill handle. An integer is just a whole number, positive, negative, or 0. Step 1 on page 206, with cell H5 active, type 1 is the initial year. Select cell H6 and then type 2 to represent the next year. Step 2, select the range H5 to H6 and then drag the fill handle through cell H19 to complete the creation of a series of integers 1 through 15 in the range H5 to H19 in this case. As we set up our table, let's think about our amortization schedule and what it represents. Liquidating a debt by installment payments is referred to as amortizing. A portion of every loan payment is applied to both the interest and the principal balance of the loan. The amount applied to each change over the amount is applied to each change over time. Early in the loan, a higher amount of the payment goes towards interest. As the loan matures, larger portions go towards paying down the principal, paying off the loan, that is. An amortization schedule shows the specific dollar amount applied to interest and applied to the principal balance with each payment. On page EX208, to enter the formulas in the amortization schedule, Step 1. Click cell I5 and then enter equals D8 as the beginning balance of the loan. Select cell J5 and then type, if H5 is less than or equal to F5, PV F4 divided by 12, comma, times 12 times F5 minus H5 minus F6 as the entry. The PV function which we'll be using here calculates the present value of a series of payments. Think of it this way. If a sum of money is going to be worth $110 after you invest it for 12 months at a 10% annual interest rate, then the present value of that sum of money is $100. The present value refers to the value of a sum of money before interest is applied. In our formula in cell J5, we'll be using an if function to test whether H5, the year, is less than or equal to F5, which we'll reference using our absolute cell references. If the year is less than the maximum number of years, the total term on our loan, then we'll want the ending balance to be the present value of our loan, which we can find by taking the rate in cell F4 divided by 12 the number of periods, which we know. It's going to be 12 times 15, which is in cell F5, minus the number of payments we've already made, so minus H5. For the third argument, the payment amount, that'll be negative F6. We know that F6 has our monthly payment amount, and so that everything sums to 0, we'll have to make this argument negative. Our formula in cell L5 is equals if I5 is greater than 0, then L5 will be 12 times our monthly payment minus the amount we've already paid on the principal. That should only leave the interest paid. Otherwise, if I5 isn't greater than 0, in other words, if it's less than or equal to 0, then we'll just evaluate the function to 0. So in other words, if we have no remaining balance to pay off, then our interest paid is just going to be 0. Go ahead and press Enter to complete the entry of the formula. On page EX210, to copy the formulas to fill the amortization schedule. Step 1. Select the range J5 to L5 and then drag the fill handle down through row 19 to copy the formulas through the amortization schedule, J6 to L19 in this case. Step 2, select cell I6 and type equals J5 as the cell entry. In other words, the beginning balance for year 2 is going to be the ending balance after year 1. Then click the Enter button in the formula bar to display the ending balance for year 1 as the beginning balance for year 2. Step 3 on page 211. With cell I6 active, drag the fill handle down through row 19 to copy the formula in cell I6, the equals J5 formula, to the range I7 to I19. On page EX211, to enter formulas in the amortization schedule, Step 1, select cell J20 and then enter subtotal as the row title. Step 2, select the range K20 to L20 and then click the Sum button in the Home tab in the Editing group to sum the selected range. On page EX211, Step 3, select cell J21 and then enter Down Payment as the row title. Down PYMT as the row title. Step 4, select cell L21 and then enter equals D7 to copy the down payment to the selected cell. Step 5, select cell J22 and then enter total cost as the row title. On page EX212, Step 6, select cell L22, type equals K20 plus L20 plus L21 as the total cost, and then click the Enter button in the formula bar to complete the amortization schedule totals. This formula calculates the sum of the subtotal that we've paid on the principal, the subtotal that we've paid on the interest, and our down payment. So it gives us the total cost throughout the entire lifetime of the loan, including the down payment. On page EX212, to format the numbers in the amortization schedule, Step 1. Select cell I5 and then click the Format Painter button in the Home tab in the Clipboard group to turn on the Format Painter. Drag through the range J5 to L5 to assign the currency style format to the cells. Step 2 on page EX212, select the range I6 to L19, and then right-click the selected range to display a shortcut menu. Click Format Cells on the shortcut menu to display the Format Cells dialog box, and then, if necessary, click the Number tab to display the number sheet. Step 3 on page 213, select Currency in the category list to select a currency format, select None in the symbols list to choose no currency symbol, and then click the second format, 1234.10, in the negative numbers list to create a currency format. Click the OK button in the Format Cells dialog box to apply the currency format to the selected range, and deselect the range I6 to L19 and display the numbers in the amortization schedule as shown in figure 4-34. On page EX213, formatting the worksheet, By the way, here we can see for each of the years the beginning balance on the loan, which started as $344,000. The ending balance, so after the first year, how much of the loan have we paid off? Sorry, not how much of the loan have we paid off, but how much of the loan do we still have to pay off? Which we calculated using this present value function. The present value function needed to know the rate, the number of periods of our loan, and the monthly payment amount to calculate how much of the loan was left to repay. The amount paid on principal we found by subtracting J5, the ending balance, from I5, the beginning balance. And the interest paid we calculated by multiplying 12 times the number of times the monthly payment amount. So that's the yearly amount that we have to pay for our loan, minus K5, so minus the amount that went to the principal that year. And that just leaves the interest paid for that year. And we can see that the interest paid is going down and the amount paid on principal is going up. So that's what we would expect from our amortization schedule. In the olden days, these used to be done by crazy looking machines. Now we kind of look like cash registers. Now we have Excel. At the bottom of page EX213 to add custom borders to a range. So let's format our worksheet starting at the top of page 212. Oh, sorry. The top of page 214. Step 1. Select the range C4 to F8 and then right-click to display a shortcut menu in a mini toolbar. Step 2. Click Format Cells on the shortcut menu to display the Format Cells dialog box. Not a bad idea to check your work with one of those old machines or calculate it by hand or in any number of online worksheets, where you can fill out a form to calculate, to determine an amortization schedule. And here we're going to want to format the worksheet. You can take a look at what it's going to look like. Let's see, that's on page EX217. So I'll actually just go straight to page EX217 and we can start applying these formats to the borders of the cells. So it looks like around the upper left in our mortgage payment calculator, we want these cells to have a thick blue outside border and thin vertical lines between each of the columns. So let's just try to make this sample area here look like what we want the selected range to look like. So we want to have, it looks like, blue for our color. So let's go ahead and select blue accent 2. And let's select medium in the style area. And if we click outline, we can see, okay, the cells will have that thick blue outline. I'm saying thick, but I mean medium. Sorry, I think I selected 1 too thick. So actually it's this here. Column 2, row 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So a thick outside border. And then we want thin vertical blue borders. So now let's go ahead and select the style as thin and then vertical. And click OK. For the varying interest rate schedule, let's go ahead and apply, it looks like thick outside borders, or medium outside borders, and some thin inside borders. So let's start with the outside border. I'll select everything we want to put an outside border around. And then we'll go ahead and right-click and select Format Cells. Select from the second column, 5th row, the medium thickness, and then the color, let's go ahead and set to blue accent 2. Click Outline. And if we click OK, then we can see that medium blue border has been applied to the outside of that selected range. We also want a blue vertical border, so I'll go ahead and reselect that range, right-click and select Format Cells. In the Style area, select Thin. You can just leave the color as blue, or if it changed, go ahead and reset it back to blue, and then make sure to apply these vertical borders to our selected range so that it'll look like this. Thick or medium blue outside border and thin blue vertical borders. Go ahead and click OK. And it looks like we also have some thin bottom borders that are applied to the row labels. So with the row labels selected, go ahead and right-click, select Format Cells. From the Style area, select Thin. And then here this border area is showing us what the selected cells are going to look like once we press OK. So yes, we want this medium blue border on the outside. We want these thin blue vertical borders on the inside. And what else do we want for this row label? These row labels. What other borders do we want on those cells? We want a thin bottom border. So let's go ahead and make sure that thin is selected in the Style area. Color's still blue, and then let's go ahead and just click Bottom. So now that area is going to have this format, which I think is right based on page EX217. Okay, so click OK. And here we've got that bottom border on the row labels, thick outside border or medium outside border on the rest of the table. And how about the amortization schedule? On your own, can you apply the borders so that there's a medium outside border and the right vertical borders on page EX217 and the right bottom or top borders depending on which cells you click before you apply the format, so that your worksheet matches figure 441 on page EX217. Feel free to follow along here. Feel free to review those steps as many times as is necessary to make yours look like figure 4-41 on page EX217.